open this week's episode of Monday Night Raw live in the ring with none other than Edge, the Raw general manager. And he basically comes out and talks about a successful first week on Raw for him, and then he gets right into business by booking 4 matches here tonight. Those 4 matches are going to determine the 4 entrants for the Raw brand into this year's Money in the Bank. Edge explains that in years past there's been multiple Money in the Bank ladder matches. However, this year it's been decided that to keep things more meaningful, that there will only be one Money in the Bank match. It'll be an 8-person Money in the Bank tag match, ladder match, and the winner will be the Money in the Bank Money in the Bank briefcase holder. And Edge says in order to determine his Raw entrance, we are going to see 4 matches right here tonight. We will see in the main event Dean Ambrose versus Kevin Owens. We will also see Finn Balor versus Bobby Lashley, Bray Wyatt versus Elias, and Drew McIntyre versus Tyler Breeze, with, of course, the winner of each of those matches getting a chance to go to the Money in the Bank. So this segment got a B-. Got the crowd hotter, and got us off to a hot start on Monday Night Raw. Which brings us right into our first match, which is that Money in the Bank entry. And we had good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. Finn Balor defeated Bobby Lashley in 10 minutes with the coup de grace. This match got the crowd hotter. Good performance here from one of my top baby faces, Finn. So Finn books the first entrant into the Money in the Bank ladder match in just a few weeks here. That pay-per-view will be coming to you live. And this match got a B. That's actually a pretty strong rating for a match between Lashley and Finn Balor. I think I just had him have an open match, so a nice typical back and forth match. From there we go to a backstage segment. Charlie Caruso is again interviewing Becky Lynch about last week's Monday Night Raw, where it seemed like not only was Alexa forming an alliance with Lacey Evans, but Alexa was forming an alliance with Nia Jax. And how did Becky feel about her title chances? With those people, and that's when Becky and Sasha come in to the frame. And they're wearing their tag team championships, and they basically let Becky know that since the beginning, it's been this trio of women, and they've been through thick and thin, and they will have her back at Starrcade, and they'll make sure that it's a level playing field, that there's no outside interference from Nia Jax or any of the other women that Alexa may be scheming with in the back. So this got a D+. From there, basically, we go into another segment. What would happen here is you would go into the locker room with Alexa and Lacey, and they would be watching that interview on the monitor, and they would basically just have a live reaction to that interview. And the two of them would agree through thick and thin that it is their mission to make sure that Becky loses the title, and they form an alliance, and the alliance grows stronger after seeing that Becky and Sasha are siding with Becky and kind of giving her a little backup. This got a little bit better. This got a C plus. From there, we go out to the ring with Elias, who sings us a song without a lot of lyrics and some pretty good guitar, which leads us right into the beginning of the match with Bray Wyatt, which is right up next. From here you'd get the guitar action. I think you'd get Bray's typical entrance where you get that badass sound, and the lights go out, and I think that on this one, I think that you have Bray just show up like in the ring with the lantern, and boom, lights go on. Bray Wyatt's right behind Elias, and you're right off. And this is a hard hitting match. They go 11 minutes and 47 seconds. It gets a C plus. Bray Wyatt defeats Elias with the sister Abigail. This is a weird note right here. Bray was visibly tiring toward the end, which is weird because Bray has like insane stamina in this game. But maybe it was because I put it for an all-out bout, and I had it set for 12 minutes. More than likely why. But anyway, good match between these two. C plus. So Bray is the second Raw entrant into the Money in the Bank. From there, we go to our first A-rated segment. So that is we're already on an A-rated segment, third show, and really, I mean, it's because it's the Shield. They wanted to go off script, and it looks like Seth and Dean were great off script, so that's a good thing. Anyway, this is just a segment. The three of them are hanging out. They're kind of talking about the Mahal, Corbin, and Lashley trio. They're talking about the match at Starrcade. And then, Dean's focused on his main event here tonight with Kevin Owens, where Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns both say, they wish him luck. They want him the opportunity. Dean says that, he wants to get that Money in the Bank briefcase, and that if he does, his plans are to jump ship to SmackDown and cash it in, on Kofi Kingston, or whomever the WWE World Heavyweight Champion will be, so that the Shield can kind of carry both World Championships. Seth, of course, supports him in this. So does Roman, and these three are ready. They seem ready for Starrcade. From there, we go to another backstage segment, and it's between Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. The two partners are kind of just in a disagreeing fashion, discussing their loss last week. Gable's kind of heated. So is Bobby Roode. The two of them haven't had the greatest of momentum. Rude is blaming Gable for the losses. Gable is, basically saying that he's trying his best. And the two kind of go back and forth. So we'll see where that leads. From there, we go to an interview with the Hardy Boys and Charlie Caruso. Charlie Caruso kind of just pumps up the Hardys, talks about the fact that they will have their debut match on Raw tonight against the Singh brothers. And the Hardys talk about the revival and how Matt and Jeff are from North Carolina. They're very familiar with the revival, and at Money in the Bank, the revival is stepping into a unknown in regards to a ladder match. That the Hardys are the inventors of the ladder match, and the revival has never been in that realm. And the Hardys are looking forward to winning the tag team championships. This got a B minus, which brings us right into that match between the Hardys and the Singh brothers. Just imagine for this segment that the revival is on guest commentary. Unfortunately, when you do guest commentary on this game, I hope they fix it on the next one. But they have the guest commentator do the whole show. Like, they have him commentate the entire show, which is, like, fucking bonkers to me. But it is what it is. So just imagine the revival is out there. They're on guest commentary. So they're basically cutting promos on Matt and Jeff the entire time, building up the heat. They do not get involved in this match. They kind of just watch. They're out there scouting. They're not trying to get involved. They're just out there scouting the Hardy Boys. They want an up close look at the Hardys, and they want to get some game footage on them. It's got a C plus. Jeff was head and shoulders above everyone else. Of course, the Singh brothers were the weak link. They're not very popular. Matt Hardy got the win. As you see, Jeff's a B minus, or that's a B plus actually. Matt's a C plus, so I wanted Matt to get the victory here, build him up a little bit. Jeff and Matt Hardy showed excellent chemistry teaming together. No fucking shit. They've only been a team for like 20 years. And then Jeff Hardy had a good performance, so good on them. From there, we go to a backstage segment. And it starts off with Jinder Mahal, Bobby Lashley, Baron Corbin. The three of them are, plotting their next move against, the Shield. Bobby Lashley kind of licking his wounds from earlier's loss, but, these two are trying to get him focused on the big six-man tag at Starrcade when in walks Edge. And, Edge basically says that he's seen them running amok here on Monday Night Raw. And, if they are so excited to get into action, and they're so excited to just constantly be sticking their nose in everybody's business, and they obviously want to pick a fight because they're out there trying to pick a fight with the Shield. They're interfering in matches. They're just basically running chaotic all over Monday Night Raw. That Edge has a couple of good buddies of his that wouldn't mind getting in a little bit of a scrap here tonight on Monday Night Raw. And Edge informs Jinder and Baron Corbin that they'll be in tag action later tonight against Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. So Edge books a match between those two and Jinder Mahal and Bobby Lashley, or I'm sorry, Baron Corbin. And he lets them know that that's going to be later tonight. From there, we go to a backstage promo with Bray Wyatt. This went over good. To B, um, Bray, talks about righting the ship. He talks about the string of losses that he was occurring. That the momentum has now changed. That he's putting all his focus, all his energy, all his power um, into the Money in the Bank match. And Bray kind of vows to win the Money in the Bank, and because he wants to have the whole world in his hands, and he feels that with that Money in the Bank briefcase comes power. Um, and this Bray Wyatt character, he wants that power again. He wants to feel the WWE universe in his hands. He feels like he has not felt that in quite some time, and he wants that back. He wants that feeling back. So just a good promo here from Bray. From there, we go right to that match that Edge just booked, where we see Baron Corbin and Jinder Mahal defeat Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder in 8 minutes. When Mahal got the pin, on Hawkins. We also saw Bobby Lashley kind of run in. So essentially, typical with this trio, they are interfering. They're constantly in each other's matches, and that continues with even with the tag team of Hawkins and Ryder. I know that I said that most of the times in my universe, an established tag team will always beat two singles guys. However, that's why through the interference in here, this is not really two singles guys. This is really a trio, and this would essentially have been almost like a handicap match the entire time. So essentially, Bobby Lashley's going to interfere. It says run in, but Lashley's down at ringside the entire time. So he trips up Hawkins. Lays out Ryder on the outside so he can't get the save. Bam, sands of time, and we got ourselves a pinfall and a good tag match here. It's actually got a C rating, which was higher than I thought it was going to get. I was fully expecting somewhere in the D's for this, because Hawkins and Ryder aren't really over. But it was pretty good. Interesting in terms of ring work. Jinder Mahal was head and shoulders above everyone else. Probably the only time that you'll ever hear that sentence come out of anybody's mouth. That Jinder Mahal was head and shoulders above everybody else. But I guess when the other people are Baron Corbin, Zack Ryder, and Kurt Hawkins, it doesn't take much to be head and shoulders above everybody else. From there, we go to a backstage segment featuring the Riot Squad, and essentially it's the three ladies. They're talking amongst themselves, and they kind of just lay out their plans. They kind of lay out their plans for Monday Night Raw to turn things around after WrestleMania. Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan make it clear that they want a shot at the WWE Raw Tag Team Championships, and Ruby Riott has her eyes set on the winner of the triple threat match at Starrcade. So just a quick segment to get these three on TV. It's before their match, of course. They go out and have a good. This is actually a really good match for a women's match here. The Riot Squad beats Natalya and Dana Brooke in 8 minutes. Sarah Logan gets the pinfall. Natalya was better than everybody else. Not surprised there. She carried that match. And this is just a way to start building up the Riot Squad. I like this tag team. I like the group. So I have, why the fuck is everybody off their game? It's like fucking weird. I have big plans for this group here. So I got a C minus, so I'm happy about that actually. Good little women's tag match. From there, we go to the backstage area, and essentially how we would make this transition is like literally as the celebration's happening, like 1990s, Tony Schiavone style. We're gonna throw it to the back hot, where you got like maybe Michael Cole's on the mic, and he's like, "I'm getting word from the backstage area that we got something happening, and we got cameras on it." Boom, and Roman Reigns is just laid out. He's in a pool of his own blood. That's right, blood. Blood is back in my universe. Blood is here to stay. Seth Rollins, he's got a bunch of road agents. Ambrose is not here. It's just Rollins and Reigns. And Rollins obviously concerned about his buddy. They got the paramedics involved. They're checking on him. Rollins is just screaming at the road agents. A lot of chaos in this segment. Nobody knows what happened to Roman Reigns. Somebody took him out though. So more on that. From there, we jump right back to the ring side area, and we get a solid one-on-one match here between Bayley and Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss gets the victory. This match goes 13 minutes, so I gave them ample amount of TV time to work a good solid match. During the match, we saw Lacey, Alexa's new little buddy, run in and interfere, which allows Alexa to get the victory with the Twisted Bliss. So essentially, exactly what you think would happen. Referee's distracted by Alexa. Fucking wham! Bayley gets nailed with the women's right. She's down. Bliss goes up to the top, hits the Twisted Bliss. 1, 2, 3. That's it. After the match, Alexa and Alexa and Bayley, or Alexa and Lacey. Jesus Christ, Alexa and Lacey start putting the boots to Bayley. They start kind of trying to take Bayley out, and from there, out comes Becky Lynch. Becky comes running in, and she kind of fights both women off. She hits the ring, like a ton of bricks, and just spears down Lacey, starts throwing rights and lefts before Alexa even knows it. Alexa goes to grab her, but Becky fights her off. I mean, true baby face, as baby face as you can get right here. The crowd's going nuts. But as you'll notice, just Becky came down. So we'll see where that goes. But this got a C plus. The match before got a C, so strong match between Alexa and Bayley. So I'm happy with that whole kind of women's segment right there. So that was a win. I like that, C plus. From there, we go to the backstage area, where we're in the locker room of Edge, and Paul Heyman comes barging in. And Heyman demands to know why Brock Lesnar, his client, was not given the opportunity to be in the Money in the Bank. And he demands why his client Brock Lesnar has not been given a rematch from WrestleMania. And Edge kindly notifies Mr. Heyman that his client Brock Lesnar, I envision Edge, mocking Heyman to the fullest extent in this segment, but he basically tells Heyman that, like, listen, this is Edge's show now, and Edge rewards people that show up to work, and Edge built his career on being there every single night, and if Brock Lesnar wants an opportunity at the championship, then Brock Lesnar can come and show up on Monday Night Raw, and maybe he'll get one. So we'll see what happens there as Heyman not happy, and Heyman lets Edge know that Brock Lesnar is not going to be happy. I can't do it, Paul Heyman, to save my life right now. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm fucking exhausted. Um, so this got a B plus. From there, we go to our third Money in the Bank qualifying match between Drew McIntyre and Tyler Breeze. These two went 11 minutes, and McIntyre beats Breeze clean with a Scott drop. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but it's certainly not the Claymore. C plus. Drew McIntyre is in. Not much else to say in regards to this match, other than McIntyre's in the Money in the Bank. We then go to commercial break. When we get back from commercial break, we got Braun Strowman in the ring, and Strowman too is pissed off about being left out of the Money in the Bank. He says that he'll deal with Edge later, but that he is looking for a fight. That he came out here looking for a fight, and being in the Giant Center, Hershey, Pennsylvania, you're kind of in the backyard of a couple of these promotions. One specifically known as ECW. Three guys randomly answer Braun Strowman's challenge from the crowd. Those three guys are Nunzio, Justin Credible, and Steven Richards. And they hit the ring, and hysterically from the other side of the ring hits the ring Mikey Whipwreck, who kind of is on Braun's side, even though Braun doesn't really need help. And essentially, from there, we go right into a 3-on-2 handicap match where Braun Strowman just absolutely destroys Steven Richards, Nunzio, and Justin Credible. 5 minutes and 42 seconds there. Essentially, Whipwreck gets nothing. I basically had him do no involvement for Whipwreck because Strowman doesn't need him. Really, the original thought on this was supposed to be a 4-on-1 handicap match, but the game doesn't allow you to do that. So I had signed these three to a one-night deal to do this segment. I thought it would be kind of cool. The show's being held in Pennsylvania. I thought it'd be kind of funny to see some ECW guys just jump out of the crowd and Braun Strowman to just fuck them all up. And so it was supposed to be these four, but with the inability to do that, 3-on-2, Mikey Whipwreck gets 0 offense. He doesn't even get tagged into this match. Strowman just fucking annihilates everybody and actually wins the match with stoppage. He just beats the shit out of all three of them, and none of them can continue. They're all done, and it ends in a stoppage. So Braun just annihilates the shit out of the ECW guys, and Mikey gets himself a little victory on Monday Night Raw. Who would have thought that would ever happen? From there, we go to the backstage area, and Tyler Breeze is kind of walking through the backstage area. He's got his head down. He's kind of a little upset about losing. And as he turns the corner to get into his locker room, there stands the Intercontinental Champion, Dolph Ziggler, who just basically points and laughs. That's literally all he does. He doesn't even say anything. He just points and laughs at Tyler Breeze, Tyler is just so defeated by losing his opportunity at the Money in the Bank. He doesn't even really have any words. Dolph kind of wins this one as he just points, laughs, and just walks away. And Tyler Breeze, they go their separate ways. but another little angle between these two. So we'll see where that goes. Which brings us to our main event. A solid match, and this would have been a B plus if I didn't have Baron Corbin interfere. The final Money in the Bank qualifying match between Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose. I had these guys just go for it. 22 minutes they went in a superb match. I had them tell a story, and I slow build in this matchup. Owens wins with the pop-up powerbomb after interference and distraction from Baron Corbin. So Corbin cost Dean Ambrose the opportunity at the Money in the Bank match. Kevin Owens is your final participant. So from Raw tonight, you got Bray Wyatt, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, and Drew McIntyre entered into the Money in the Bank match. And then from there, to close out the show, you get a big brawl. Corbin interferes, Ambrose, he's down, outrun these two, and then the three of them just start just kicking the shit out of Dean Ambrose, and then out from the back run Seth Rollins. I'd imagine he'd have a steel chair or something in his hands, slide into the ring. Rollins just whacks Lashley right in the face with the steel chair. He knocks him out. He gets into it with Corbin. He's laying the blows to Baron Corbin. But then Jinder Mahal is able to get up behind him, and essentially that's when Lashley is going to regain his composure a little bit after that steel chair, and then it's just a 3-on-2 beatdown of the final remaining Shield members. As earlier in the night, we saw Roman Reigns brought off to the hospital. So Roman's not there to make the save, and these three just dismantle and kick the shit out of the Shield. And Rollins and Ambrose are down, and this trio hold up the Universal Championship together in unison, above Ambrose and Rollins, who are laid out, and that's how we fade out on Monday Night Raw. So a good show. This actually got us a B plus, so a solid show. Increased our popularity in 26 regions. We're off to a blazing start, and really the B plus comes right here. I mean, here's how this is just superb booking right here. Start off the show with a B minus segment and a B match. You got an A segment there. You got an A segment there with Strowman, and a couple of B's in between. But then you have a nice solid main event, and your ending segment, you leave the crowd happy with a nice ending segment. So that's it for Monday Night Raw. Another successful show as we lead into Starrcade. But before Starrcade, up next is a little show I like to call WWE SmackDown Live. Alright, boys and girls, we're off with another edition of WWE SmackDown Live. This is the go-home show for SmackDown before our Starrcade, which will be this coming Sunday night on the WWE Network. We open in the ring. Shawn Michaels' music hits. He comes out. He's got a couple of announcements to make. The first being tonight in the main event of SmackDown Live, we will see a tag team match, and the winners of this tag team match will be entered into the Money in the Bank ladder match to represent SmackDown. And there's something unique about this match, Sean says, and that's that the participants in the match don't like each other. And each team has a lot of history, but they're going to have to work together if they want an opportunity at the Money in the Bank briefcase. He announces that we'll see AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan against John Cena and Randy Orton. So big pop from the crowd as Cena's going to be in action tonight, along with basically the four biggest stars on SmackDown Live. Then Sean goes off to announce that we will also see another major announcement concerning the United States Championship Tournament, which begins tonight. Later on in the show, Sean will unveil the bracket for that tournament, along with two first-round matches right here tonight on SmackDown Live. And Sean says that the other two participants in the SmackDown Live Money in the Bank ladder match, or the ladder match, participate with on the SmackDown Live brand, will be determined at a later date. Sean wants to evaluate the competition a little bit more and come up with a unique way to make the competitors on SmackDown Live earn a spot in that Money in the Bank ladder match, because Sean says that he wants the briefcase to come to SmackDown Live so that he can kind of control the destiny of the briefcase. So got a good segment, B+. Most Shawn Michaels segments are going to go pretty over, so not surprised there. Next up is a backstage segment. Starts off with an interview between Kathy Kelly, Sheamus, and Cesaro, really putting over the fact that they are facing the Usos this Sunday night on Starrcade. Kathy Kelly point blank asks the Bar, what it would be like without teaming, not teaming together if they were to lose. Before the Bar can really respond to that, the Usos come strolling in, and they kind of say that they're going to take great pleasure in ending the Bar. They're going to take great pleasure in putting an end to this team. The Usos admit that the Bar has been a thorn in their side, but come Starrcade, like they have so many times in the past, they will, get the better of the Bar and put an end to them. The Usos say that if they need any other evidence to go along with that statement, then they can watch how they dismantle, Rhino and Heath Slater later tonight. Which brings us right into that match. Rhino, Heath Slater against the Usos. Decent wrestling. Goes about 8 minutes. Just a quick match, just to hype up the Usos, get them some momentum going into the pay-per-view, because that's going to be a barn burner of a match. All right, as I was saying, that's going to be a barn burner of a match. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I have to make sure that I check every episode now. I never sign out of it, but for some reason it's signing me out of my desktop recorder account. And if you aren't signed in, then you can only film videos for 5 minutes. So it did it to me filming 205 Live, and now it did it to me on SmackDown. So it's kind of fucking annoying. But anyway, so barn burner match between the Usos and the Bar. So that gets them a victory heading into the pay-per-view. Next up, we have a backstage segment um, featuring the Horsewomen of the Apocalypse, uh, minus, of course, the NXT participants. But it's Shayna Baszler, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville. Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville in tag action tonight. So they talk about that upcoming match, about how they're going to dominate, and they are facing Naomi and Carmella. And Shayna Baszler cuts a nice little promo on Asuka. And, Shayna Baszler still has the NXT title, even though, unfortunately, I can't bring that title up, which kind of sucks. Hopefully they change that in the next TEW game, like being able to kind of book NXT and that kind of stuff. But Baszler basically lets the world know that the reason why she came up from NXT is that she was tired of basically just beating everybody senseless down in NXT, and she needed a real challenge. And she set her eyes on Asuka, as before Shayna Baszler was the dominant NXT champion. Asuka was the most dominant NXT champion in history, and Shayna wants to let the world know that that Shayna truly is the most dominant female in NXT history. So we get a little backstory as to why Shayna decided to make the jump up to the main roster. Got a C minus. Next up, we do see that match between. I'm sorry, I said Carmella. I meant Candice LeRae and Naomi. And Candice and Naomi actually get the victory here over Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. Candice pins Mandy, and it's because Asuka runs in and distracts Mandy, and costs this little duo a victory here. And that's just giving Asuka a little bit of an upper hand on these three. They got the better of her last week, so this week going into the pay-per-view, she gets the last laugh, costing Sonya and Mandy a match, and it's a way to get Candice a good victory. So C minus. This is actually a pretty good match by these four women. Next up, we're in the office of Shawn Michaels, and he reveals the bracket of the United States Championship. So as you are looking it over, you see the bracket here, and we are going to focus on the left side of the bracket, where Michaels says that tonight we'll see a round one matchup between The Miz and Rusev, and Andrade Ciamis and Rey Mysterio Jr. So Michaels announces those two matches, and we see he says that the right side of the bracket will take place next week on SmackDown Live. So we can expect to see those two matches next week, as the United States Championship Tournament will kick off right here tonight. Next up, we have a match, one-on-one match. Carmella against Charlotte. They go for almost 11 minutes. Good wrestling match between the two of them. Charlotte defeats Carmella with the figure 8 by submission. We then go to a backstage segment between AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan. Essentially what would happen here, you got AJ kind of warming up in the locker room, getting ready for his match, and Bryan would kind of barge in, and the two would have words, essentially saying the same thing to each other, um, that they don't like each other, and they don't like the fact that they have to team tonight, but both of their eyes are on the prize. That being the Money in the Bank briefcase and the Money in the Bank ladder match. And Daniel Bryan goes on to say that after he beats everybody at Starrcade, he will become the WWE World Heavyweight Champion again, and he still will compete in the Money in the Bank ladder match, so that he can get the Money in the Bank briefcase, and then he reveals a plan to cash it in, to jump ship, cash it in on the Universal Champion Seth Rollins or whoever that may be, so that he can, much like Becky, become Daniel Two Belts. And, AJ, of course, has a response to that. And the two of them kind of just stare each other down. Opponents this coming Sunday, partners tonight. So we'll see. We'll see where that leads. From there, we go to a pre-taped interview between Kathy Kelly and Batista. Batista, of course, discusses his match with Triple H at WrestleMania, and puts over the fact that he's got unfinished business, and that unfinished business is with John Cena, and that Batista's a better wrestler, he's a better actor, he's more famous, he's just better in every sense of the word than John Cena, and that he'll see John this Sunday at Starrcade, and they'll make their match at Super Showdown official. So Batista pretty much ends it with one of those I'll see you Sunday, John. So just a segment to get Batista on TV. Did not do nearly what I thought it was going to do, to be honest. But Batista was fantastic. So maybe Kathy Kelly was the reason why this thing fucking shit the bed. Next up, we get the first round action for the United States Championship. Good wrestling, decent reaction from the crowd. The Miz and Rusev go 10 minutes. The Miz gets the pin with the skull-crushing finale after distraction from his loving wife. And she distracts Rusev, and the Miz gets out of there with the victory. So the Miz is moving on to the next round of the United States Championship tournament. Following that, we get a segment similar to the one that we saw earlier, and it's Randy Orton, John Cena. They're a team tonight, but these two have been through some freaking battles in the past, and Orton basically tells John that he better be focused 100% on the tag match tonight, and not focused on Dave Batista, because Orton has been to the mountain 12, 13 times. I can't remember off the top of my head how many championships Orton's won, but he's up there. He's I think he's only trailing Triple H and Ric Flair and Cena, and Orton basically says that he has his eyes set on that grand prize of catching Cena with the amount of championships, and he better not cost him the opportunity at getting the Money in the Bank briefcase. John, of course, rebuttals with don't worry about me, Randy, just worry about yourself. He's been focused for 15 years, and that's not going to change with Batista looming, with a face-to-face encounter with Batista looming this Sunday. It's got to be as it should with these two. From there, we go to an interview. Kathy Kelly is just, I gotta go hire like another backstage person, because I realized like 4 interviews in, and like Kathy Kelly is just been on this show way too much. Um, this is just an interview with Asuka. Kathy Kelly recapping Asuka interfering, and Asuka said, basically says that it wasn't a cheap shot, that Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, asked for it after they attacked her, and they picked the fight with her, and that she's going to bring the fight straight to Shayna Baszler, and that Asuka's not impressed with Baszler and her title run. That the competition was much stiffer when Asuka was undefeated in NXT. She goes on to remind Baszler that she never lost. And Baszler being a two-time champion, well, guess what? You're a two-time champion because you lost the belt once there, bitch. And Asuka goes on to say that this coming Sunday she's going to take pleasure in inflicting a certain amount of pain on Baszler. So got a D+. Next up, we get a match between Andrade and Rey Mysterio. This got a C+, and they go for about 13 minutes. I think I put them to do storytelling match. So they just have a nice, good little match. They tell a story, and Andrade ends it with a quick roll up on Mysterio. I'm sure at the end of this, Mysterio is going to be throwing a hissy fit with me because he did not want to put Andrade over. But sorry, Ray, but you're 40-something, and I'm, more to come from Andrade for me. So this got a C+. If Ray wasn't as pissed, this probably would have been like a B match. I think these two would have a great match together. From there, we get a backstage segment between Shawn Michaels and Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair, in his office asking for a championship opportunity with Becky Lynch. Shawn kind of says, just because I go way back with your daddy doesn't mean I'm going to hand you championship opportunities. You have to earn championship opportunities. Charlotte kindly reminds Shawn that what more do you want her to do? Since losing to Becky at WrestleMania, she has beaten she's beaten Naomi, she's beaten Carmella, she's beaten the top contenders. What more do you want? And Shawn goes ahead and sets up a number one contenders match between the winner of Asuka, Shayna Baszler, will face Charlotte the following night on SmackDown to name a number one contender for Becky Lynch's SmackDown Women's Championship. From there, we get this clusterfuck of a segment. Essentially, we'd be getting ready for the main event of the night. You get the New Day comes out, and they cut a in-ring promo. They let everybody know that they're going to be on guest commentary for this match because the next tag match, their three opponents are going to be in it. So what better way for Kofi to scout than get a front row seat? Kofi promises the WWE Universe and the fans that supported him that he will not lose the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, that dreams are, a reality. True babyface stuff here, which then brings out Daniel Bryan, who basically says that, Kofi, your little Kofi mania, and your little dream world that you're living in, the harsh reality is that was the world that Daniel Bryan created a few years back with the Yes Movement, and Bryan doesn't need the support of the people. He doesn't need the approval of the people, but that Daniel Bryan will become the planet's champion. This, of course, brings AJ Styles out, who says, he basically reminds the world that for 300 plus days he was the face that ran the place, and he was the guy. He was the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, which of course brings Randy Orton out, and these six guys kind of just face off. They stare off, and then that would actually lead right into Cena's music, who would kind of break up the tension, and Kofi, Biggie, and Xavier would kind of exit the ring, as we would get right into this huge main event tag match, which gets a B. And in an exceptional match, we get AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan get the victory over Cena and Orton. They go about 18 minutes, and Daniel Bryan gets the pin over John Cena. Actually, he submits John Cena with the no lock. Everybody had an A performance. This thing was probably dinged a little bit because Beth Phoenix is weak at the announce table. And I had John Cena lose, and John Cena had a hissy fit when I told him that he was going to lose. He did not want to put Daniel Bryan over, which I'm sure is pretty typical John Cena. After the match, we get a stare down between the four. We get a stare down between the four guys as we go off the air, leading into Starrcade. So that's your main event of Starrcade right there. Fatal 4-way for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And as we go home, so to speak, the cameras fade to black with those four men staring intently at each other, ready to go this Sunday night. Show got us a B. Not as good as Raw, but gained popularity in 26 regions. So a good week. Good go-home week. The pay-per-view is up next. I'll be having that on a separate... Look at this strong ending. B-, B, B, B. Just... That's how you start a show. Start it off hot, get your stuff in the middle, and then you just leave the crowd wanting more. Big week, B+ for Raw, B for SmackDown. A lot of momentum going into Starrcade, which should be a pretty good event. A lot of big matches. So we'll see you at Starrcade. Thanks, everybody. With William Regal standing in the ring with a microphone. I envision the crowd would probably be chanting like NXT, NXT. They'd be pretty excited to see Regal, and Regal goes on to announce that because of the work that he's done with NXT, that there's only one man to captain the ship of 205 Live, and that would be him. And he goes on to announce his plans, which begin with the winners of last week's tag team match, Mustafa Ali and the Brian Kendrick, are going to face off right here tonight on 205 Live for a chance at Buddy Murphy's Cruiserweight Championship come Starrcade. So the winner of Ali Kendrick will become the number one contender for the Cruiserweight title. And then this, of course, brings Buddy Murphy out, who is obviously going to protest this decision by William Regal. And William Regal goes on to tell Buddy Murphy that he better get used to it because he is going to be a fighting champion. And Regal wastes no time in announcing a unique way to come up with the next challenger for Buddy Murphy's championship. He's going to do a little twist on Tag Team Turmoil. And it's going to be a Tag Team Turmoil tournament where the teams are going to be completely random. And at the end of the tournament, the winners of the tournament will then square off in a one-on-one match to determine the number one contender for the Cruiserweight Championship, a match that will take place on the Monday Night Raw following the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So Regal essentially says that the tournament will begin next week on 205 Live, and matches will take place on 205 Live and Monday Night Raw, and that the winners of the tournament will then square off for an opportunity at Buddy Murphy's championship, the Cruiserweight Championship. Murphy again in protest, not happy about it, and we kind of go to commercial with the two of them kind of staring each other down. Regal obviously getting the better of this one, which brings us into our first match of the night. And it's just a one-on-one match. These two were in a triple threat last week, so kind of continuing their one-on-one. Last week, Akira Tozawa got the victory over Gulak. And this week, Akira Tozawa gets the victory over Gulak again. So these guys go 10 minutes in a good little hard-hitting back-and-forth match to kick off the show. Got a C rating. Brings us right into a backstage segment, which is an interview with Charlie Caruso and Cedric Alexander. Caruso is kind of recapping the night with Cedric and talking about if he had to pick, any partner in the back, who would he pick? And said right before Cedric's about to answer, Buddy Murphy comes charging in, kind of interrupts the interview. He says, it doesn't matter, Cedric, who you would pick, because the best option that you would pick would be me, Buddy Murphy, but I'm not in the tournament because I'm already the Cruiserweight Champion. So it doesn't matter. The two kind of exchange words. Cedric challenges Buddy Murphy to a match later this evening, and kind of taunts him enough to where Buddy Murphy accepts. So we will see that match later tonight. As the two of them exchange words, Murphy storms off, and Cedric is there to kind of pump himself up one last time with Charlie Caruso. Which brings us into our next segment. We're in the locker room of William Regal, where he announces another match that we'll see. That was really annoying. My recorder wasn't logged in, and it stopped halfway through. So I don't know how much of this show beforehand I'm going to get, but I'll recap it at the end. It'll kind of be a really weird 205 Live. Anyway, we open with William Regal sitting in his office, getting ready to book a match between Kalisto, Grand Metalik, and Lince Dorado, and they're going to be squaring off against the trio of Jack Gallagher, Tony Nese, and Oni Larkin. And he basically just says that, he's going to be scouting people. Teams are going to be random, but he just wants to kind of scout the talent and give the crowd a good six-man tag. We then jump right into the next match, which is a match that we saw set up earlier when Buddy Murphy interrupted Cedric Alexander's interview. And in a bout that had decent wrestling, little heat, Buddy Murphy pinned Cedric Alexander with a handful of tights. So Murphy escapes here with the victory, and Cedric Alexander obviously is protesting with the referee, but to no avail. Murphy escapes. It was a non-title match, but of course he escapes up the ramp kind of clutching at his Cruiserweight Championship. Murphy, the epitome of a classic heel here. Got a C minus. Which brings us right into that match that we just had booked, which is this big uh, six-man chaos here, and that's essentially what this is. I mean, it's just a way to get these six guys on the show. I got to try to get as many cruiserweights involved each week as possible, and I really only have an hour to book. So six-man tags are definitely a good way of doing so. So the team of Oney Larkin, Jack Gallagher, and Tony Nese win when Gallagher gets the pin over Lindsay Dorado. The interesting thing about this is that I am going to use a randomizer to make these teams. I'm not going to do anything shady with the teams. Like, for those that don't trust, I'll even record the randomization of it. But I'm going to use a randomizer so that these teams are truly random. And depending on what happens with the teams, is kind of who may or may not win this tournament. So it should be pretty interesting. Kind of a good twist on it, on the tag team turmoil concept. Next up is a segment between Ali and Kendrick. The two exchange words kind of on their way out to the ring for their match. Ali basically says that they might have been friends and partners last week. But all that changes as his quest to become the Cruiserweight Champion begins tonight. And Kendrick says that don't underestimate me, even though, I'm not as young or whatever. He still has years of wisdom. And we'll see if those years of wisdom mean anything, which they do. Because in a bout that had decent wrestling but didn't have much heat, the Brian Kendrick defeated Ali in 11 minutes and 29 seconds by submission. So the end of this match was kind of spoiled already because I wanted to get that Starrcade hype video out. So obviously I needed to make the graphic. And I kind of spoiled that it was going to be Kendrick. But it was always going to be Kendrick. Mostly because I just kind of want that, like the first show, veteran solid worker against the champion. And it's more of a longer story here for Ali. I have plans for him. They just don't involve Starrcade. So that got a D+. Ali was off his game. I'm not really sure why it got such a D+. It's kind of weird, I guess, maybe because Ali was pissed about losing. But that's the end of the show. Got a D+. Actually, the whole show got a C-, which isn't bad for a lowly little cruiserweight show. It's a B-rate show. It's a second-rate show, so it doesn't really do anything about popularity. If the video got fucked up, essentially what happened here was the show opened with William Regal announcing that he is the new general manager of 205 Live, that he was given the reins of the ship because of the great job he did with NXT. That tonight we were going to see Brian Kendrick and Ali, who were a tag team last week, face off one-on-one for the number one contendership for Buddy Murphy's title at Starrcade. This, of course, brought Buddy Murphy out. He wasn't happy. And then William Regal says, well, where he comes from, a champion is always going to be a fighting champion. And then he informs the world of the new idea that he has to come up with the next number one contender for the Cruiserweight title. It's a takeoff of Tag Team Turmoil, where it's going to be a tournament with random partners. And at the end of the tournament, much like tonight's main event, the winning tag team will then square off one-on-one with each other, with the winner of that match getting a shot at Buddy Murphy on the Monday Night Raw following Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Buddy Murphy's livid. We then went into a match between Akira Tozawa and Drew Gulak. Just a nice singles match, start off the show, get everybody hot, which it did. It got a C. Tozawa won over Gulak. These two, of course, met in the first week in a triple threat match, and Tozawa got the win over Gulak there as well. And then we had an angle between Cedric Alexander, Charlie Caruso, and Buddy Murphy. Basically, this was just a basic interview angle. Alexander was being interviewed by Charlie Caruso about his thoughts in regards to tag team turmoil. Buddy Murphy kind of interrupts. The two have a back and forth and set up a match for later tonight, which we of course saw Buddy Murphy beating Cedric Alexander. So that was it for 205 Live. And next up is going to be Starrcade. So the first pay-per-view event, a network special, and it's going to be a good one. I'm going to do that video separately. So it's just going to be a video of Starrcade. So it'll be a nice, quick 20-25 minute where I can focus on just the pay-per-view. And hope you guys enjoyed this week's episodes of Raw, SmackDown Live, and 205 Live. See you guys next time.